If you want to do well in FPL, all you have to do is pick the players that get the best scores. So in theory, it's very easy. In practice, it's surprisingly hard to pick the players that get the good scores. Now, if you've got a particular feeling or reason to think player X is going to get a good score, the ownership does not matter. You should absolutely get in the player that's going to get a good score. However, if you don't know and you want to play safe, the safe thing to do is to pick the popular players. But of course, there's more than 11 popular players. So which one should you get? In this video, I'm going to look at the popular players and what I think of them. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit helpful. We'll start by looking at a chart of popular players. Across the x-axis is the ownership levels and the y-axis is the price. And this is for teams around the 1.5 million rank. The reason I'm using that at the moment is it's roughly where I am. But whatever rank you are, the chances are it's very similar to this. Purple is strikers and up here is Haaland. He's 100% owned pretty much. So if you don't own him, because he's expected to get a good score, that will massively hurt your rank. And to make things worse, he's likely to be highly captained. So more like maybe 180, 190% owned. Which means if he scores 10 points and you don't own him, congratulations, you just got minus 19. So the safe thing to do is absolutely get Haaland. And we'll look at the next two most popular strikers. João Pedro, he is being sold on average, but he's currently about 68.4%. So he is still going to hurt your rank if he does well and you don't own him. And then in third place is Gyökeres. I have trouble saying his name. Gyökeres. He's at 27.7% ownership. So he's in the minority. Anything below 50%, of course, is minority. Now, you get managers online and content creators talking about going for differentials. In my mind, anyone less than 50% owned, you've clearly got an edge. They're in the minority. You're still going to get decent points. So you get nearly 3/4 of Gyökeres' points if you have him and he does well. If you don't own him and he does well, you don't need to massively fear him. For the midfielders, Semenyo's around 90% owned. A few will captain him, not many, so he'll still be below 100%. But you're in for potential pain if you don't own him. He's absolutely worth getting, even if it's just to protect your current position. And then next two midfielders, Reinders and Kudos, they're both just below the 50% mark, which means they're in the minority. But they're still going to hurt you, and I think they're still worth having, and they're both decent players. We'll look at them in detail in a minute. And then the fourth next highest, well, there's Salah's at 23.5, Grealish is 23.3. So neither of those should massively hurt your rank. Of course, Grealish isn't playing this game week. Salah historically does well against Man United, and that's who he's playing. For the defenders, we have two near 50%, which is Van de Ven and Senesi. And then around 40%, Guehi's just above it, and Gabriel's just below it. And then the fifth most popular defenders all the way down here at 23%, and that's Timber. So looking at the four most popular, absolutely worth having. And you're going to get more than half the value of their points. So for example, if you had Gabriel, he got 10 points, as an example, that's still worth about 6.3 points for you. If you had Senesi and he got 10, that's still worth just over 5 points for you. So you don't need to worry that they're highly owned. They're absolutely worth having anyway. And the most popular keeper, we now have a front runner by a long way, and that's Raya. He's at 29%. Could well be 30% by the weekend. And the next most popular right down here with Vicario, and I think it's Pope, by around about 13%. So all that to say, if we look at the most popular possible team at my rank, that'd be 10 outfield players and a keeper. So that'd be Haaland, Semenyo, João Pedro, Reinders, Kudos, Van de Ven, Senesi, Guehi, Raya in goal, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then it would be Gyökeres. That would be the most popular team you could have at my rank. If you had that team as your starting 11, I think you're probably going to get a small green. You may get a small red, but to get a small red, you need most of those players to blank, and then some of the next most popular players to do really well. So small green or small red, I think more often than not, you're going to get a green and not a red. As it happens, by pure chance, I don't have Raya, but the other 10 players are in my team and they'll be playing this week. So that's great for me. Right, let's just look at the players now. We'll look at the players now, starting with the goalkeepers. And Raya is by far the most popular goalkeeper. And you'll see in the top right, it says 90,000 and an up symbol. That means his net transfers in this game week so far is 90,000. Now, I know some people are showing these players are really popular. This is how many transfers in, but they don't offset it by the transfers out. In this video, I'm doing transfers in minus transfers out because I think that's a lot more useful. Personally, I wouldn't go for Raya simply because there'd be 3 other Arsenal players that I would want. And if you go for Raya, you can only get 2 other Arsenal players. However, he's a perfectly safe keeper to have. There's no problem with him. The thing with goalkeepers is at the moment, it's still the case. They're not really going to hurt your rank if you don't have one that does very well. Raya's going to hurt you the most potentially this game week, but it's not massively bad. That may change in the next game week or two. So I wildcarded last game week and I didn't go for Raya. I went for Pope. So if you look at the next 3 keepers now, that's Vicario, Donnarumma and Pope. They're all going to do similar damage if you don't own them, but it's less than half as much as Raya's going to do you. So Vicario's, he's being sold net 46,000 at the moment. Donnarumma's 94,000 in and Pope's 176,000 in. So of the keepers we've seen so far, Pope's the most popular transfer in. That's because Newcastle have been pretty good at the back and it's easy to not want another 2 Newcastle players. You have to have a goalkeeper. Pope seems pretty decent. Donnarumma is a very, very good choice, and the advantage of him over Raya, both at 5.7, is you're far less likely to choose 3 other Man City players you're going to want because of Pep Roulette. It's harder to pin him down, whereas with Arteta, it's a lot easier to choose stable Arsenal players. We then have Sanchez. He's massively getting sold, 60,000 transfers out net. If you've got him, that's fine. They've got some nice fixtures coming up. I know some people online are looking to bring him in. But he's perfectly all right, 4.9 million. He's the cheapest on the screen at the moment. I wouldn't use a transfer to get rid of him unless I had like maybe 4 or 5 free transfers. Or if you're wildcarding, you could move him on. But if you've got 1 or 2 transfers, you're not wildcarding, I'd absolutely just keep Sanchez. Then Petrovic's all right. He's gone up by just 5,000. Kelleher's down by 3,000. Neither of those are going to hurt you at all if you don't own them. Sales is being massively dumped, 83,000 net out. Dubravka is still being slightly brought in. Absolutely, if you're wildcarding, you have to get Dubravka. He's a playing goalkeeper and he'll sit on your bench most game weeks. And then we have Pickford. He's being sold 34,000 out net. That's because he's away to Man City this game week. Perfectly good keeper, but you only pay a little bit more for Donnarumma. So if you've got the extra 2 million, it's probably worth going for the Man City goalkeeper. If you've got Pickford, he's absolutely fine. No problem having him. And in case you're wondering how I choose which players I'm showing you, it's around the 1.5 million rank. It's the players that are at least 10% owned around that rank or have had at least 100,000 transfers in, because that means they're probably being talked about. You might want to know about them. Right, for the defenders, the first 4 are all equally likely to hurt your rank this game week. That's Gabriel, Senesi, Van de Ven and Guehi. For their expected scores, as suggested by Solio Analytics, there's a link below for them. If you don't own any of these, they're going to get you about minus 1.5, 1.6 this game week. That doesn't mean you have to get them. That just shows you the extent of danger they are to you. So all of these are going to hurt you more than any of the goalkeepers that you don't own. So Gabriel, 244,000 transfers in net. Senesi, 170,000 in, even though he didn't get his defensive contributions last game week. And that 3 of the next 4 are away. That's Palace, Man City and Villa. So there are plenty of managers thinking, looking at the fixtures, I don't want to get him. However, he's very highly owned. He is going to hurt your rank a bit if he does well and you don't own him. Van de Ven's the only one of these 3 being net transferred out. That's by 74,000. But he's still a pretty decent defender. 3 home games in the next 4. That's Villa, Chelsea, Man United. And then Mark Guehi, 153,000 in. That is a lot. And fixtures are, he's got home to Bournemouth, Brentford and Brighton in the next 3. So that's perfectly good. He's only 4.9. These 4 defenders on the screen at the moment, I think, are the safest 4 to own at the moment. They're all going to be good sometimes. any of them could hurt you a bit if you don't own them. And then the fifth one we're going to look at, fifth most dangerous, is Timber. Now, Timber over the next few game weeks and Gabriel are expected to be the highest two scoring on the screen. So if you wanted to go for Gabriel and Timber, that's fine. If you were picking 5 defenders, you're on a wild card, you want to play 5 at the back, then I suggest you get the 5 defenders on the screen at the moment. That is the safest thing to do. If you're only going to play 3 at the back, normally on a wild card, possibly Gabriel, Timber, and then Gahey would be the best 3 to get. If you want 4, it would be Senesi. And then 5th, at the moment, Van der Ven's the safest, but he is being sold and the fixtures aren't so good going forward, so he's probably going to continue to go out. So you could choose somebody else. Pedro Porro's being sold off. Don't need to worry about him. 41,000 out. Virgil van Dijk net 133,000 out. So Liverpool's fixtures get better from game week 12, but he's 6.1 million. And Senesi, Van der Ven, Gahey have all been doing better than him, and they're all cheaper. So it makes sense why managers are offloading him at the moment. Electric Steve's down slightly, 53,000, but he's largely bench fodder. Munoz is up by 38,000, and if you're on X and listen to social media, people do love him, and quite rightly so. He's very attacking, he's very good, but Gahey is going to do you a lot more damage than Munoz, and Gahey's 0.7 cheaper. So Munoz is a perfectly fine defender to have. Personally, for me, I'd go for Gahey though, because that's just to protect my position. And then Calafiori, he could do as well as Timber. He's only had 3,000 net transfers in this game week though. Nowhere near as popular. But he is 0.2 million cheaper. Personally, I wouldn't go for him at the moment, but he's perfectly fine. If you've got him, keep him. If you've got any of these defenders on the screen at the moment, they're perfectly fine to keep. The first 4 are the 4 you need to be cautious of though, because they're the ones that hurt you if you don't own them. Second page of defenders, none of these are going to hurt your rank if you don't own them. Cucurella, he's pretty steady. He's just net up 6,000. Chelsea are coming into a nice run of fixtures, but I think he sometimes doesn't get all his minutes. So Alderete, I'm saying don't buy him. If you've got him, that's fine. The reason not to buy, he's just come back from international and we don't have confirmation that he's playing. He had a slight knock, press conference, seems to be okay. They're going to check, so we don't know. If you've got him, I suggest keeping him. I've got him and I'm intending to bench boost, and my current plan is, unless we hear he's definitely out or likely to be out, I'm just going to bench boost and risk I'll be a player down. It makes no sense to me to use a transfer to get in another cheap defender that I'm only going to play 1 week, and that's this week, because each transfer is worth 4 points. So it's just not worth it for me. I'm just going to keep him. Goodmanson, bench fodder. But if you've got him, perfectly good week to play him, or at least play him on a bench boost. Away to Burnley, could get something. And then Burn, he's been brought in by 185,000. So he's growing in popularity, but he's still unpopular enough to not hurt your rank. If he does well, you don't need to worry about him. But he's a good defender, he might be all right. And then Roden, 4.1 million, away to Burnley, might get something. But again, he's bench fodder. And then Konza, absolutely, I wouldn't buy him. He's not worth having. He's not going to hurt you if he does well. And he's 4.5 million. And there's plenty of good defenders at 4 million or 4.1 million. So there's no reason for anyone to buy him. He's being transferred out by a net of 60,000. Tarkowski's transferred out by 34,000 net. But part of that will be they're away to Man City this game week. And managers just don't fancy him. But if you've still got him, he's absolutely fine to have. He would do all right. If I had him, I'd be very comfortable having him. For the midfielders, Semenyo, head and shoulders above all the rest regarding importance. He is so highly owned. I think it was around 90%. He is going to hurt your rank if he does well. Even if he only gets 5 points, that's going to be like minus 4.5 against you. It is going to hurt you. So for the sake of safety, if you can have him, that is a good move. Not worth taking a hit to get him in. If I was wildcarding, I'd definitely be bringing him in. And then the next two we saw, Reinders and Kudos, very, very similar. If you don't own either of these, they've got a similar chance to do the similar amount of points against you. By Cellular Analytics reckoning, if you don't own them, it's going to be like -2 against you. But they're perfectly good. They're quite cheap, 5.8 and 6.8. They're fine to have. I would have no issue having those. So fourth most popular, or fourth most damaging if you don't own them, is Salah. Now, he's expected to be the highest scoring midfielder this game week. Traditionally, he does very well against Man United, and that's who they're playing this game week. He's expected to be the highest scoring midfielder over the next several game weeks, but he has been sold by nearly 474,000 managers net, and that's, of course, because everyone has to get in Haaland, and Salah has been disappointing recently. And because his ownership's going down, you don't need to fear him anymore. So if you've still got him, I'd suggest you keep him and you play him. The only reason to sell him is if that's your only route to get Haaland. If you've got Haaland and Salah and then cheap other players, personally I'd be tempted to stick with that, I think, at least for one more week. Because Saka, who's the midfielder you'd probably bring in, his ownership is far enough down that you don't need to worry about him. And if Salah does something good against Man United, then that's nice load of points for you, and it's worth keeping. So Saka, if he does as well as expected, he's going to do half the points damage if you don't own him compared to Salah. So obviously if Saka outscores Salah, Saka's the better one to have. But if you own neither, then Salah's the one you should be fearing. But all those green ones are good picks to have at the moment. If the fixture's coming up, they're fine to have. And my current midfield, I've got 4 of those. I've got Semenyo, Rangers, Kudos and Saka. And Saka, I think, is my biggest differential for my main 11. Then Caicedo, he's popular. 381,000 have brought him in. And he's done well historically. He's only 5.8 million. Fernandes is being dumped. 196,000 net out. He's still a good player, though. And if I had him, even though he's away to Liverpool, I wouldn't be desperate to get rid of him. Now, if I had 3, 4, 5 free transfers, I may see if there's something I want to do with my team and shuffle things around. But you should always concentrate on which players are an issue. And an issue is they're suspended or they're injured or their minutes aren't very good. They're the players you need to be getting rid of. And if Fernandes has to sit in your team for another few game weeks, personally, if it was me, it wouldn't bother me. Now, if I didn't have Semenyo and I did have Fernandes, I'd be fine swapping Fernandes for Semenyo just to be safe. And then Enzo, I suggest you don't buy him because at time of recording we don't know that he's playing. Again, potential injury doubt or fatigue probably after the international break. He's probably going to play. The expectation online is he's probably going to play. And if we find out before the game week starts that he is playing, he's fine to bring in. He's fine to bring in anyway, but he is a little bit risky. But Enzo and Caicedo, they could both do quite well for you. And Chelsea fixtures coming up, very nice. Ndaya, now he's 18,000 net out, but he's very good at ticking over, getting you 5, 6, 7 points per week. He's only 6.5 million. He is away to Man City this game week, but then he's got Spurs, Sunderland, Fulham. The fixtures are absolutely fine. I would be in no rush to get rid of Ndaya if I had him. And then Grealish, 236,000 net out this game week. That would be because he's away to Man City as parent club, so he can't play this game week. But again, he's perfectly fine to have. And if you've got him and you've got somebody on your bench coming off who's an all right player, you should be in no rush to get rid of him. Obviously, don't go buying him this game week unless you're on a wild card and you particularly want him. Then that would be all right. And then second page of midfielders, none of these are going to hurt your rank if they do well and you don't own them. You don't need to fear any of these. Gakpo, he's down by net 5,000. Might do right. Expected minutes somewhere around maybe 80% on average. Home to Man United, then Brentford, Villa. That could be all right. And then from game week 12, they have a good run of fixtures. Sarr, he's been brought in by 159,000. He is a very good player. He could easily average 5 or 6 points per game week. So very popular, but he's still low enough owned that if he does well, it's not going to hurt you. Now, if you want to bring him in, that's fine. Very, very good player. Bournemouth this game week could get something. The way to Arsenal, a little bit more difficult. Then he's home to Brentford and Brighton. So 3 of the next 4 are quite nice fixtures. His popularity is likely to grow, assuming he doesn't get injured. So his price will be going up. But perfectly good player. I'd be comfortable having Sarr. I wouldn't probably get him at the moment because I'm trying to get popular players this season. See what happens. But he is a good player. Eze's good. He was always a bit of a minutes risk, but Odegaard's going to be out for a few weeks, which means Eze's minutes may well go up. He's been brought in by net 33,000. Perfectly good Arsenal player to have. I could easily pick 5 other midfielders I'd rather have, but if you've got him, that's fine. He's a good player. Mbeumo, he's like Fernandes in that if I had him, I wouldn't be desperate to get rid of him, but he has been shipped out by net 80,000. He's a fine player. If I was wildcarding, I wouldn't be getting him. If I had him, I wouldn't be too worried about it. If I had 3 or 4 free transfers, maybe move him on, but I wouldn't be in a desperate rush. Anthony, only 5.7. I said don't buy him simply because he's flagged. If we find out he's not flagged and he fits in with your structure because he's nice and cheap, he's all right to get. Just a word, there are some cheaper midfielders, some of whom who play, but they're not in this video because none of them are high enough owned or been bought enough. But if you want to get a cheap midfielder who's going to sit on your bench, there are some out there. You can save a bit of money. Forwards, everyone owns Haaland. 1 or 2 of you may not own Haaland. You're in for a world of pain over the next few game weeks. If it's a strategy you don't want to own him, that's fine. Nearly 500,000 have brought him in this game week. He's now the most expensive player in the system, and he's going to be probably the most highly captained this game week. Unless you're playing a particular game where I'm going to go about Haaland, there's really no excuse not to have Haaland. He's going to hurt your rank. João Pedro, although he's been sold net of 148,000, Chelsea have some nice fixtures coming up. He's only 7.7 million. I've got João Pedro. I'm perfectly comfortable having him. Not a problem. He's still a good player. Goalkeepers is a good player. I know he's not done good so far, but he should be a good player. And Arsenal have some nice fixtures coming up. If you've got him, he's fine to have. If you're wildcarding and you want to get these 3 forwards, that's fine. I wildcarded last game week, and these are the 3 forwards that I have. And these are the 3 that could hurt my rank the most if I didn't own them. If I was wildcarding this game week, I think it's possible I'd go for Haaland, João Pedro, and a very cheap forward. And then I'd maybe play 4-4-2 as my formation. But Gyökeres is fine. Gyökeres, I can't say him at all. Gyökeres, he's fine. He's absolutely fine. I wouldn't be moving him on at all personally. But if you wanted to release some funds to maybe afford Saka, that's okay. So Voltamade's very popular, being brought in. Net of 474,000 managers so far this game week. But he's still very lowly owned to the extent that if he does well, it shouldn't hurt your rank. So if you didn't want to get him this game week and then maybe next game week get him, if he still grows in popularity and does something, that's fine. If you wanted to get him, obviously that's fine. He's probably a good player. Richarlison, he's been dumped net 219,000. So that's quite a lot of managers getting rid of him. He seems to be a minute's risk. There's no way I'd be bringing him in. And if I had him, I'd be comfortable using a transfer to move him on. Mateta, he's actually been sold by net 7,000. So that's actually pretty flat. He is a good player. Crystal Palace do have some good fixtures. And I suspect the main reason he's not more popular is just there are so many other players that are good in the system. And if Voltamade wasn't doing well, then I think Mateta would be a lot more popular. If you buy him, he's a good player. If you've got him, that's great. He's a good player. So Isak, he's net down 48,000 so far this game week. But he may do very well the next several game weeks if he gets the game minutes. There's no way I'd be buying him because he's expensive, 10.6 million. He's lowly owned, so he wouldn't be hurting my rank. But if you've got him or you're a manager that likes to take a calculated risk, Isak may be okay. Bowen's a good player, brought in by 123,000. Might be all right. We know that Fulkrig's injured, so we need to see what that's going to do with their formation. But he should do well over the next few game weeks. 7.7 million, but he's very lowly owned. He's not going to hurt your rank if he does well. Ekiteke's been sold by 133,000. Not going to hurt your rank. We don't know how many minutes he's going to get, what his status is. He's not a problem. If I had him, I would definitely be tempted to move him on because I'd be too nervous about his minutes. And then second page of forwards, we've got Thiago, 6.1 million. I think managers who buy him are just trying to save a bit of money and they think I'll play him sometime. Because if you're going to more or less never play him, you should get a cheaper forward. And I don't think many managers want to play him every game week. If you've got him, that's all right. He will do all right sometimes. I think he's up 94,000 net so far. A manager's buying him, and that'd be because he recently did get some points. So he's all right. I wouldn't be getting him at the moment, but he's all right. And then we have Foster, bench fodder, 5 million. But if you need to play him, that's 5. He's at home to Leeds this game week. So if you're bench boosting and you've got Foster, I think that's perfectly fine. His popularity's grown by about 11,000. We're now going to look at my suggested bench order, starting with the keepers. You, of course, do whatever you like. This is just my suggestion. And I start with the players I'd most want to be playing until you run out of players, I guess, to play. So if I had Ray away to Fulham, he's the keeper I'd be playing. If I didn't have him but had Donnarumma, I'd be playing him home to Everton. Then it would be Dubravka. Now, loads of managers own Dubravka. And, of course, a lot of managers will have Raya. So they'll be playing Raya over Dubravka. But Dubravka is at home to Leeds this game week. So a lot of managers who would be bench boosting would be comfortable doing that because they have Dubravka. You don't have to play him, of course. But now is quite a good game week to play him. They could lose 3-0, but it could easily be a 0-0. Then it'd be Vicario home to Villa. Then Pope away to Brighton. Then Sanchez away to Forest. Then Kelleher away to West Ham. Petrovic away to Palace. Sales at home to Chelsea. And then Pickford away to Man City. For the other players, there's 6 I've put aside that are part of the captaincy discussion. But apart from that, this would be my preferred order of playing. It'd be Gyökeres, Fernandes, Reinders, Kudos, Sarr, Fultermaid, Bowen, Gabriel, Timber, Mbeumo, Eze, Calafiore, Mateta, Enzo, Caicedo, Virgil van Dijk, Munoz, Guehi, Van de Ven, Ndiaye, Gakpo, Tarkowski, Senesi, Pedro Porro, Byrne, Alderete, Anthony. And then it would be Thiago, Cucurella, Richarlison, Electric Steve, Goodmanson, Rodon, Ekiteke, Foster, Konza, and Grealish, who's not even playing, of course. As for captaincy, Haaland might not be the best scoring player this game week, but he's going to be the most captained by a long way. So if you don't captain him, the points he scores are going to be just straightforward points against you. So you are taking a risk. But if there's another player that you think is going to outscore Haaland, you should absolutely be captaining them instead. So, for example, Salah historically has done very well against Man United. He's a perfectly okay captaincy call. He has been poor the last few game weeks, but if you've got a feeling you should go for him, then you could go for him. If I had those two, personally, I'd be going on Haaland, but that's okay. Other potential contenders, Saka against Fulham, João Pedro against Forest, Semenyo against Palace. You could even, if you're really risky, go for Isak against United. Maybe he'll get enough minutes to do some damage. Any of these are fine for captain, any for vice captain. As always, in a single game week, don't choose 2 players from the same match. If you can't or don't want to do 2 of these, then any of the green midfielders or forwards on the previous pages, they'd be fine as well. And there we have it, my thoughts for the popular players for Game Week 8. I hope it's a little bit helpful, or at least a little bit interesting. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice Game Week 8, and I'll try and answer all the comments that get left. Thanks, bye.